Here we are in now Ephesians chapter 3, the beginning of that. It's hard to believe. We've been doing this so long and it's taken so long to get here, but here we are. And what we've had is that Paul describing just immediately prior to this that God's church is God's household and we are part of that. And he's now going to go on to begin to pray about that. As we start this chapter, I would just think about your circumstances, your life circumstances, where you are at the moment, or the things you've experienced. And maybe you feel there have been times when you've been, life's taken a bad turn. You're going nowhere. You felt trapped by the things that had happened to you. And, well, perhaps the last 4 months, literally trapped. Well, listen to Paul, what he says about his circumstances. He says, Chapter 3, verse 1, "For this reason, I, Paul, the prisoner of Christ Jesus, for the sake of you Gentiles." We'll get to why he breaks this off suddenly, as he does, but just think about what he's saying about his circumstances. He's a prisoner. He's being held in Rome under house arrest, and he's awaiting trial before the emperor. Now, we know that he spent 2 years in that state. Prior to that, he'd spent 2 years in prison in Caesarea, while the Roman governor ummed and ahed about what he was going to do with him. But how does he see himself? Well, he says, a prisoner of Christ Jesus. And this is where his whole mindset is completely opposite to the way we often think. A prisoner of Christ Jesus. Of course, he was the emperor's prisoner, and he'd been held by the Romans, and it was the malign influence of the Jewish leaders who had ensured he was kept in prison in Caesarea when he should have been released. But he doesn't see those things as significant. He sees Christ first. He sees himself as Christ's prisoner. Now, he's not merely saying that he's been captivated by Jesus, which would be true. He's saying actually that he's a prisoner because Christ has locked him up. He sees the sovereign hand of Jesus in his captivity. He's there because Christ has put him there. So he sees this other reality behind the major events of his life. It's not the Romans who are in charge, though they might think they were. It's Jesus. Now, could you do that with your own circumstances? Could you do that with the way you think about your life? It's Christ who has his hand upon your life. You might not understand the purpose, but actually, he is with you in it. He is guiding you in it. He's leading you through it. Maybe you feel like a prisoner of your circumstances, but actually you are his prisoner. It is Christ who is the one who is in charge. You are not a prisoner of your circumstances. I remember one of the ladies, older ladies here in church, received a diagnosis for something at the end that she died from. It was quite serious, and she said, "This is not what I would choose, but I believe he is leading me through it." And he did. He guided her through some very difficult months. So that's one mindset change. The other is what Paul says about the purpose, because he can see some purpose in the way things have happened to him. It is for the sake of you Gentiles. And that was a direct cause, actually. He was arrested in Jerusalem because the Jews had thought he had brought a Gentile into the temple. And then when he was allowed to speak to the crowd, they listened to him for a while until he mentioned Gentile mission, and then they just exploded. So it was his mission to the Gentiles that was a direct cause of what had happened, but he believed that what was happening was for their benefit as well, that it would lead to blessing for them. And of course, actually, for most of us in the West who are Gentiles by birth, we've all benefited from the fact that he wrote these letters for us from prison. So there's a benefit there. But that's another change of mindset. He can see that it's for the sake of somebody else. Now, have you ever thought that the traumas you experience might not be for your benefit? We're all very good at asking the question, what is the Lord trying to teach me for myself through all these things that I experience? But what if the purpose is not so much for you, but for someone else? Maybe somebody you've not even met, actually. Because the way you handle a deep trauma, the way you do so facing it in faith, may be a huge encouragement to somebody else to stand firm. And what's going to help you with that mindset change? Well, it's the first one, to realize that you are Christ's prisoner and that he will guide you through these things. Well, I said it was a big mindset change, a big change in the way of thinking it is. But that's what sustained Paul, and it's what will sustain us. This is the route to peace in him, in our circumstances. So with that in mind, I pray you have a blessed day today, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.